You want to spend 4 to 6 years in an institution, acquire 6 figures worth of debt that's going to take a lifetime to pay off because you can't find a job that pays more than $15 an hour? If so, then college is just for you.
If you're wondering if there are other options, the answer is yes. And that's what we're talking about on today's Queer Money, episode 317, with auto mechanic, attorney, and founder of the Reckoning Trade Project, Morgan Mentzer.
Get ready for a new windows of opportunity to open up for you. Now, on with the show. So David and I have talked a lot over the last several years about how maybe going to college, that traditional path of success and happiness that we've been spoon-fed since before birth, may not necessarily be the logical or the best path anymore. College tuition has gotten obscenely expensive and is putting people into mountains of debt even before they start their careers. And so you have to ask yourself, is there really value in that? People aren't finding salaries that are commensurate with the cost of their tuition, and so they're taking decades upon decades to pay off student loans. And now people are hoping that there's a student loan forgiveness, which may or may not happen. And if it does happen, I'm sure that the majority of people will be disappointed in how it's going to look. So we're always interested in looking for other options, right? Because education is key, but I don't know that college or university is always key. So we were super excited when we got a pitch about someone saying more LGBTQ people should get into trades. And we were totally on board with that. We've actually talked about that between the two of us before, but we actually haven't expressed that, I think, publicly anywhere. So welcome, Morgan Mentzer, to the Queer Money podcast. We're excited to have this conversation with you.
Thank you so much. I'm really excited to be here, and I'm really excited to talk about the trades. I love the trades, and I love talking about it. So
Awesome.
Thank you.
Very cool. So let's go ahead and get started. So let's set a baseline so everybody understands we're using the same vocabulary. What's a trade, and what jobs are included in the trades industries?
So the definition is a little bit malleable, but usually people think of trades as skilled trades, where you go in and you learn a specific skill, and you often do it through apprenticeship form or a vocational school. And it's often a job you're working with your hands. We think of the industrial skilled trades as more the trades that are welders, mechanics, machinists. And then the construction trades are their own specific trades that really are around the construction industry. Carpenters, insulators, electricians, plumbers, and then we have iron workers. So it's really any job where you are often it's a physical job. You learn a trade, how to fix something, how to build something, how to create something. And then it's kind of within also the trade culture. There's a very strong trade culture. Labor movements in the US history have obviously made huge impacts. So there's unions, there's the trades itself as folks that are working in the industry. So it's really just anything that is kind of that skilled trade where you learn how to do something, where you're creating something or fixing something.
Exactly. So if you're looking for a job that doesn't force you to sit in a cubicle with fluorescent lights and your skin looks horrible, this might be a career path you want to go down.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I really see the trades as so powerful in a lot of ways that we don't typically think about. Economic justice, absolutely. You get higher wages, you often get benefits. Many trades have union support, which is absolutely a huge benefit to ensure workplace safety, to workers' rights. But it's also educational justice. And I see it in my experience as an auto mechanic, and this is my anecdotal experience, but where a lot of folks in the trades often have learning disabilities that might preclude them from succeeding in that traditional education where you take the standardized tests and you learn in that very logical, linear way. And I have found in my experience that a lot of folks that do so beautifully in the trades, that can tear down an engine and rebuild it, often can't sit through a standardized test because their brain just doesn't work that way. So it really avails folks of other ways to use our brains, and others really like strong attributes that are not necessarily as valued in society as you typically envision, like, oh, can you solve this complex math problem on a piece of paper versus can you solve this complex math problem by building something, by reading it, by welding, by knowing the angles. So I see it as economic justice and educational justice. In ways that also I love the trades, because once you've really dived into the trades in one vein, you often feel this kind of boost of self-esteem. Like if I can fix a car and I understand how the electrical system works on a car, I'm interested in how does my electrical system work in my house? And it really, to me, what in my personal experience has made me able to take on things I wouldn't typically take on. That I can say, what's behind this sheetrock is a question that I feel confident in answering, because I know that if I break something, I'll figure out how to fix it. And really just trusting my innate nature of being able to create, fix, understand, and get through difficult situations where it requires working with my hands.
First of all, I want to say I absolutely love the fact that you talked about the different abilities and the different ways in which our brains work, because you brought up a good point that I think that the way that our schooling system was created, it was created to pump out a certain type of individual that would go into the office, that would go into the factory, that was ready to do the repetitive task over and over and over again. And the fact that we have only built an education system that speaks to those individuals means that a lot of folks were left out of getting a good education because their brains did work differently. They learned differently. And I love that you talk about that there shouldn't be any difference, right? Our not only our schooling system, but our culture should accept the fact that people and understand the fact that people logically are different. They think differently, and because of that, there's different things that they are just as valuable in doing. And maybe that's one of the things we're going to get to the point, the value that the individual and the individuals in the trades provide to society today. Maybe we need to turn this on its head, because I think that there are a lot of folks who may look down on someone in the trades. They have a certain there may be a certain societal stigma to individuals who work in the trade, but we're going to cast some of that aside, I hope, in this conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. Unfortunately, I think there's a lot of bias, a lot of classism that goes with the trades, and perceiving folks that are in the trades as not as educated or deficient because they chose not to go through traditional avenues of education, when really, it's so beautiful to be able to use your hands and make things. And it also, I think, speaks to, as we see higher rates of youth that have ADHD, that have issues where they don't want to sit down in front of a screen, especially with last year when schools often were not in and kids had to look at screens all the time. The trades really speaks to, there is an intrinsic value with letting people move around, that people learn when their bodies move, and just really thinking about it's critical to play to people's strengths. And the trades do that. It plays to strengths of different learning styles, different ways of thinking, innovation that just maybe doesn't come for some people while sitting down in front of a computer. So I think there is a lot of stigma. And part of that also, it leads to folks, well, let me rephrase that. So when I work in a shop and a car comes in and it has innumerable problems that are, you have to kind of separate, okay, here's an engine problem, here's an issue with their brakes, here's an issue with their transmission. And to be able to see myself and my coworkers be able to part and parcel these issues out, discern where the electrical issue is coming in versus where the mechanical issue is coming in is beautiful and it's brilliant. And I really wish that folks could get kind of this bird's eye view into the trades, that what people are actually doing is solving very complex problems, building complex, building buildings. And so I think the trades does need a bit of a highlight in terms of this is what it actually means. It actually means you're doing complex equations and problem solving. And it feels so gratifying to have a problem come in, be able to think through it, diagnose it, and fix it. It's a very gratifying kind of process of, this came in, I was able to accomplish it during this day, and then I end my day. So it's really, I think the trades do need a bit more of a kind of highlight and a little glamour put on it maybe, so folks are a little more availed of the trades is complex math, it's complex reading, it's complex problem solving, it's analytical, but it's just not framed that way.
Yeah.
And so it's where we need a little revamp. And I will say that I think the LGBTQ folks can definitely help with that, because as we know, you can make anything beautiful. You can bring pride and love and power and song and dance to anything. And it's really what I think queering the trades is a big part of what we're trying to do. And by saying we need more LGBTQ folks in the trades, what we're ultimately doing is saying the trades are going to have to change. There's a dearth of workers, and the trades need more workers. And LGBTQ folks in the trades will help shift the dynamic of misogyny that's intrinsic in it, racism, and these issues that really create an unsafe space for many queer folks in the trades. By virtue of existing in the trades, we shift it. We shift the gender dynamics. We shift the misogyny. We say, you can be a strong femme woman in the trades. You can be non-binary and just as hardworking as everybody else. And that we don't want these misogynistic environments. So many, the trade culture that is so entrenched with a lot of bigotry, people don't want to work there. Even cis het men who perpetrate it, everybody wants a safer workspace. And that's what I think queers in the trades can really do.
Nice. So I think we'll dive into that in a bit. And you touched on it a little bit, but why, what's your elevator pitch for why LGBTQ folks should get into trades? LGBTQ people specifically.
Yeah, I would say it's really a lot about economic justice. It's about having a job that is reliable, that has benefits, that has access to climbing the ladder, getting into management. There's a lot of different avenues in the trades where people can grow and really kind of shift the trade. So people can go into union management. They can go into management and being a foreman in their actual trade. And so there's a lot of areas where people can go and grow. I think there's a lot of skill sets available to folks when they enter the trades, from, the actual trade itself to, do you want to learn about negotiating with your union? Do you want to learn about managing people? Do you want the ability to grow and elevate your career is absolutely there in the trades. It also avails people a lot of power to start a small business. We know a lot of LGBTQ trade workers who, like myself, were in the trades and found that working for an employer has limitations, has cultural issues. There's lots of reasons that working for an employer in the trades can be frustrating. And once you learn a trade and you master it, you can absolutely start your own small business and run it the way you want to run it. So I think that for queers, it's job security, it's benefits, it's union support, it's kind of the ability to grow and develop new skills and flexibility also in the workplace. If you don't like this workplace and you're a hard worker, you know your trade, you can also move to other companies, and it avails you with the leverage to be able to pick and choose where do you want to be.
Yeah, I think you bring up a good point that oftentimes the trades are portable, right? I can, if I am in construction or I am a mechanic or I am in one of the trades, it's highly likely that I could go to almost any city or town and find a way to either work for someone else or start my own shop or business there. But we know that for a lot of folks, it comes down to the Benjamins. It's all about the money, right? I think
Yep.
that maybe that's where it starts for a lot of folks. And I think that's where some of the stigma is too, right? That there's a huge wage gap between quote unquote professionals and folks who are listening. I just did air quotes for the
professionals
and the trades, right? So maybe can you talk about what we are seeing out there right now for folks in the trades and where they're starting off with salaries that maybe people may not be familiar with?
Yeah, I can talk a little bit about it. I think the biggest issue when it comes to salaries and the trades that I think is powerful is the apprenticeship model. The model that you go through school and you work and you learn while you work. And so it avails people to not incur the student loan debt. That to me is a huge part of it. This is a model I think, yeah, we should all really look towards and shift towards in a lot of ways, that you learn on the job, you get paid on the job, and develop skills on the job. So I think first and foremost, that apprenticeship model is so critical. And people entering apprenticeships make anywhere from $18 an hour to $27 an hour, depending on the various trade.
Right.
And you can often get bonuses. For example, when I was an apprentice mechanic, I made bonuses off of everything I did. And my foreman, the person who was my mentor, also made money off of my success. And so it's a real incentivizing program that the better you do, the more collaborative you work with your foreman or with your mentor, often can avail both parties with economic benefits. And so that is the first and foremost, I think, critical part of the trade.